let's get other people to introduce themselves. Natalie, hopefully
Oh yeah, yes, please.
all of these people know you. So why don't we start with you, and then Amy can introduce herself, and Erin, at least who's on my screen, can introduce herself too.
Sounds great. So hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Ikker. I'm the Undergraduate Student Affairs Advisor for the Department of Political Science. I'm the one that answers a lot of your VAC messages. I send you all these emails, and we have Zoom meetings every so often. So thank you all for being here. I know that we've all been really excited about this program. And so, you know, I'm glad you all are here to learn more.
Amy, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Amy Butsati. I'm the intake advisor at GPS. And apologies if I'm looking kind of weird because I have an external monitor. I'm looking up at you all right now. But welcome to this info session. And I'll pass it on to Erin.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Morey. I am one of the undergraduate advisors for the International Studies program. I'm here to support as we have similar programs in international studies that works with GPS. So I'm just kind of here to support and help this program go.
Yeah. And Ariane, do you want to let them all see you? They should know you as well, right?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Ariane Parks. I'm the Student Affairs Manager in the Department of Political Science, and I used to be the undergraduate advisor for many years. And I know that this a program like this, students have wanted this for a really long time, so we're super excited to launch it this year. Welcome, everyone.
So I'm Nancy Gilson, and I'm the Director of Academic Programs for the School of Global Policy and Strategy. And I'm also the Director at the International Studies Program. But I am a political scientist by training and degree, two of them, a master's and a PhD, and taught for a long time in the political science department. So we're very excited about this program. I think this is a great, you know, sort of joint program between the two places, a lot of synergy, and not just because we have a lot of political scientists at GPS, but a lot of political scientists who work, you know, sort of in both places, and a lot of people in the political science department who have, whoops, we lost our slides, Aim. A lot of people who work in the science department.
I'll make some adjustment real quick.
Okay, who, you know, have a lot to, you know, who know GPS really well. And so the transition for a lot of you from the political science department to the School of Global Policy and Strategy, where you'd be graduate students, will be seamless. Erin will tell you if at some point, you know, you talk to her, because she backstops me a lot. She's the reason that a lot of stuff gets done for the BA MIA program and ISP, that the students who are in the program move seamlessly into the graduate cohort. You come in as seniors, as undergraduates, but interact really seamlessly with the graduate students in the two-year program. You're going to be doing exactly the same curriculum as the two-year Masters of International Affairs. And the BA MIAs overall do as well, if not better, in the program, because all the hard stuff about going to school in a quarter system, knowing UCSD, knowing, you know, having a solid background in political science from UCSD, from one of the best political science departments in the country, means that you're going to come in and really find that you know, it's not as hard as it's going to be for your graduate cohort for you. So this is a great program. This is the first year. So we're very excited to introduce it to you. So, you know, y'all know how to read, so I'm not going to read the slides for you, and we're going to post the slides so you can, so if you can't read them now, you'll certainly be able to read them later. But let me, you know, make a couple of points here that the slide makes, is that this is, for those of you who really are interested in international affairs, who see yourself wanting to work either in the United States or abroad, whether in the public sector or the private sector, this is really the program where you're going to be able to develop a deep expertise in a policymaking area. And that includes international economics, international management, development, the high politics of international relations, comparative politics. We're going to, require you to get a good grounding in economics and some management skills, by the way. It's impossible, for example, to talk about trade and the politics of trade in any kind of meaningful fashion if you don't know how a firm operates, and you can't think about how firms operate in the global system. And so having this kind of interdisciplinary foundation that the program gives you means that you're really, you're really set up to be very employable when you get out. And everything that we know about master's degrees is that they increase your employability and your lifetime salary by a substantial amount over a bachelor's degree. And so this is a very good route for those of you who have an idea about, having a professional life that's invested in international affairs. So what you will earn in the program is a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, International Affairs. That Bachelor of Science in International Affairs is available only once you're admitted to the program. So other students in the program, other students in the political science department will not be earning that degree. It's a degree change or a major change that you'll make once you've been admitted into the BA MIA. At the end of your year of doing your final year of undergraduate work, you'll earn your BA, then you'll go on and have one more year of graduate work, after which you'll earn your Master's of International Affairs. So as I said a minute ago, this is really, GPS is very much an interdisciplinary place. And so you're going to be taking straightforward political science classes, one on international politics and security, for example, but classes on the policymaking process that look at, sort of governments comparatively, that constitutions matter, that the way that governments are structured matter, why you get, more liberal or left policy out of some kinds of governments versus others has largely to do with, in fact, the institutions and the institutional design. And knowing that as you go into working in policy or regulation is important. Economics, you'll have to take some microeconomics and international economics. And then you can, develop an expertise in things like development. GPS regionally is focused, as you probably know, on the Asia Pacific or the, Asia, Latin America, the United States. Asia sort of broadly conceived. And so it really, gives you an opportunity to have both a regional or country expertise as well as a policy expertise. And so, what are the political problems or the economic issues or even business issues that really perk your interest? Population growth, health, climate issues, energy, sustainability, security, traditionally understood like Eric Gardsky does, or the way that we do it in the political science department, at GPS, which includes things like food security, environmental security, sort of broadly conceived, technological advances. Because we have this interdisciplinary faculty, we have these broader, deeper palettes, if you will, across, what are otherwise sort of traditional areas. So in order to be eligible for the program, you have to be a current political science major. And At the time of the application, so in April of this year, you have to have a cumulative GPA of a 3.0 or higher and a major GPA of a 3.4 or higher. Those of you who have never looked at your degree audit should do so at some point, because that's where you'll see what your major GPA is. I've had students ask me, how do I know that? How do I calculate that? To which my response is, update your audit. That's how you do that. You have to be able to demonstrate to us that you can complete all or nearly all of your upper division political science course requirements before beginning the GPS core. In other words, do you have to have done all of your upper division political science by the end of winter quarter this year or the year that you apply? No. But my preference, my preference is someone who has to help you figure out how to get all your coursework done. The preference of the admissions committee is that you have, that you can show us that you can finish your degree, your upper division requirements. And then in the year when you start the GPS core, really devote yourself to the graduate level work so that you don't have a lot of other stuff hanging on. GPS also has a language requirement, which is 6th quarter proficiency. So if you don't currently have if you don't have an Asia Pacific language, excluding English, by the way, if you don't have an Asia Pacific language, you have to be able to get to 6th quarter proficiency by the time you earn your master's degree. So not by the time you finish your bachelor's degree, but we have to be able to see that it's going to be possible for you to reach 6th quarter proficiency. Some of you are bilingual, you went to high school in a country in a different language other than English. Some of you have taken 6 quarters of a GPS language. Some of you have language certificates. There are lots of ways to prove 6th quarter proficiency. We can talk about those one-on-one if you want to make an appointment so that we can make sure that you can get through that. Some students, depending upon what you have as in your undergraduate academic history, may be required to attend summer prep before beginning graduate school, or before beginning the graduate core, because, as I said, you know, in your final years in undergraduate, you're going to be taking what's the equivalent of an upper division course in microeconomics, two classes in quantitative methods, an international economics class. So if you don't have math, if you don't have some economics, if you don't have a statistics class, we may admit you to the program, but tell you that you'll have to attend summer prep in the August before you actually begin the GPS core. It's all in an interest of making sure that you come in and do well in the program. It's not punishment. In the years that I've been at GPS, you know, we have 100 students who do summer prep, and I've never heard anyone say, I wish I hadn't done it, it was a waste of time. I've heard people say, I wish I'd paid more attention in prep. I've heard people say, I wish I'd gone to prep, but I've never heard anybody say that it was a waste of time. So it's a way to sort of get up to speed in the graduate coursework. So this is an overview of the, you know, of the broad curriculum. So your lower division requirements in political science that Natalie's actually going to talk to you about. You'll have to take the lower division requirements in political science. You need to, if you don't have a relevant language, you'll have to show us that you've done some language. Your upper division requirements are all spelled out. Again, Natalie's going to talk about these in a minute. What are the requirements in political science? Most of you, I think, are not going to find it hard to have the coursework that you need to apply to the program. It's a fairly straightforward sort of cross area interest within political science, international relations, comparative politics, international political economy, some American institutions. So I don't think you'll find it at all difficult. And then Your GPS MIA requirements, again, we'll talk about those in more detail, but the first year core sequence that you'll do as your last year, senior year as an undergraduate, a regional specialization, the language requirement, which is connected to the regional specialization, a career track of 5 courses, and in your graduate year, a capstone research class where you get to actually write a paper on something that really is of your own interest in design. So this gives you some idea of the language requirement. And again, the language that you do is dictated by the country or regional specialization that you choose. So this gives you some idea of the most obvious languages: Spanish or Brazilian Portuguese for Latin America, Mandarin for China, Japanese for Japan, obviously, and so on. We have some, there are other languages that we allow. For example, the student, your colleague who I was just talking to about yummy Filipino food, if she speaks Tagalog, we'd be happy to take that as her language at GPS. There are other languages that can apply. We have quite a few students at GPS, for example, who are using Hindi for Southeast Asia. Because campus doesn't have these as a full sequence, only as heritage classes, we don't list them here, but we're happy to help you figure out how to qualify in other languages as well. So again, this is 6th quarter proficiency. So it's not 6 quarters of language. It's to show 6 quarter proficiency. So if you test into a language on campus and they put you in the 2nd year, that's fine. We're not looking for 6 quarters. We're looking for, passing that 6th quarter if you do it at the graduate level with a B or better. Natalie, you want to take it away here?
Yeah, sure thing. So, these are the lower division political science courses that you all would need to complete with a C- or better in order to, be admitted to the program. So I'm sure none of these come as a surprise to you all. The only one that is a bit more specific is Poly 5 or 5D, data analytics for social sciences. So, we have another major that's political science data analytics, in which this course is a requirement. So this would be, the one class some of you all may need to take on top of what you've already completed. And for those of you who, were students with us in spring 2020, you would be familiar with our department allowing the pass grade for major related coursework in response to COVID at the time. So, if you fell into that category and you took one of these courses and earned a pass grade, we're not going to ask you to retake the class or anything. So don't worry about that. Next slide, please. And so these are the upper division political science courses that pertain to the curriculum for this program. So a minimum of 2 classes from the international political economy area, and then 2 from American politics, specifically those 5 classes that you see. And then another 2 from either international relations or comparative politics. So you choose the subcategory you want to focus on, and then 3 elective courses. Now, as far as the specific classes, I'm not going to go over that right now, but just know that I'm in the midst of creating our department webpage for this program. So all of that information will be on our website next week, as well as a major checklist, so to say, which I know many of you all are familiar with. And that'll list the exact classes for each of these subcategories. So, everything's going to be transparent. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Oh, it said I was glitching out. Sorry about that.
That's right. Yeah. So let me pick up on a couple of things that Natalie said so that you understand why the particular requirements. As Natalie said, the one lower division poly that's really data focused. Look, you know, I tell this to the 5-year students all the time, particularly the ones in ISP who look at all the math they have to take and they say, why do I have to take so math? To which my response is, look, these days the world runs on data. And if you don't have to be a big producer of data, like you don't have to be a data wonk, but you do have to be an intelligent consumer of data if you want to work in the world of international affairs. Everything is about, you know, looking at the data on policies, on the success of policies, on a business's success, a government success over, you know, a certain number of years. Everything requires you to be able to at least look at the data that's being produced. And so we're big believers at GPS in teaching you how to be at least a very smart consumer of data. And so, it's all right, Natalie. And so we ask you, you know, to take that, and that will prepare you, that will give you a very good foundation then to step into the 2 quantitative methods courses at GPS in your senior year. The other thing is I want to say something about the American Institutions class, and as it relates particularly to the GPS core. So you'll notice when you match up those the course numbers to what classes they are, they're really institutions classes. And the idea is, again, if you're talking about policy making, you have to know how the institutions work. Like, what can they do? How do they interact with one another? Thinking about institutions comparatively. And so it's less that we want you to have a deep knowledge of American institutions. How does a government work? Though that's a good thing to do. And more that you have to have, you know, you have to begin somewhere in understanding the relationship between institutional design and legislative output. It doesn't just sort of happen at the end of an argument where everybody raises their hand and you decide what the outcome is, right? So there really is a logic to the way that the curriculum goes together. So this is the GPS core, which you'll take in your senior year and your last year as an undergraduate. It's 8 courses. Everybody takes these courses in the BA MIA program and in the 2-year MIA program. Everyone takes these 8 courses. And these are the foundational hard skills that then allow you to develop an expertise in policy design and policy evaluation that you can then take to muster to be able to speak with some influence about what good policy is. Broadly, regardless of the policy area that you're looking at, whether it's the regulation of social media or education or trade or supply chains or, you know, sustainable energy sources, being able to look at the policies and understand all the political and economic and business inputs into them. So microeconomics, globalization, quantitative methods 1, that's in the fall of your senior year, policymaking processes, accounting and finance. Everybody comes into the MIA and says, why are you making me take accounting and finance? Again, because you have to know how a business operates. You can't talk about international political economy unless you can think about how a business operates. If you take a class from my good friend Lawrence Brose, Simeon Nichter, they will tell you that understanding what businesses do on the ground is incredibly important. Quantitative methods 2, where you'll learn how to do some coding and manipulate data, run regressions. And then in your spring quarter, international economics, and international politics and security. So, you know, what are the truly sort of macro constraints and inputs into both national, but also multilateral, bilateral politics and economic policy? So by the time you get to your graduate year, then you'll be able to work on a career track. These are the career tracks. Here's where you really get to develop an expertise in a policy area. And within each of these tracks, there's the possibility, you know, of crafting your own deeper, more individualized curriculum. There are 2 required courses that teach you sort of the broad strokes of what the field of international development or nonprofit management is, of international economics. So for example, international economics, you take a trade class, you take a class on fiscal and monetary policy. If you do international management, you take international business and a marketing class. And similarly in international politics, you take international law and regulation that, you know, looks at sort of the broad constraints and inputs at a more detailed level of international politics, but then allows you to take a class either in Asia, on Asia or Latin America to fill out the track, so that if you're focusing on Asia, you're focusing on Latin America, you really begin to think about international politics with a very clear eye to a particular region. So it's 2 required courses then and 3 electives. And the elective lists are fairly long and allow you to really sort of, as I say, put together a curriculum that's of your particular interest. Then the regional or country specialization. China's a country, Latin America's a region. Typically so regional specialization is 2 courses, and it's usually the economics of and the politics of, or the political institutions of, so that you're learning both the sort of economic and political developments of a particular region or country. GPS is deep in regional coursework. And so in addition to the 2 that you have to take, there are others that you can take that add on to it. You can also, by the way, take courses, additional courses in the political science department, in the economics department, that sort of add to the richness of your curriculum in your regional or country specialization. And then, as I said a minute ago in talking about the language requirement is attached to this regional specialization. So the assumption here really is, that language is an important part of a regional specialization. We're not under the illusion, which would be silly, that after 2 years, for example, of taking Mandarin, that you're going to be able to go to Beijing and work in Chinese, if you're not a native speaker, obviously. But that it's important to understand the way in which language structures the way that people understand their countries and how their countries operate. That language isn't just a tool that allows you to tell people what you want, but is very much a part of the political or economic and socio-cultural identity of a place. And so GPS as a school of international affairs continues to require students to do language under the belief that one can't do a specialization in a place where you don't have at least some facility in the language that the people there speak. So this is really by way of just showing you, how the program goes together, that it's doable if you come in as a freshman. We also, the next slide is one as a transfer. And you'll be able to look at this a little bit more closely when we send out the slides to you, that shows you where your GEs fit, where your lower division and upper division political science courses fit. I also want to make note of the fact that, you know, there's room in here if you look at it, should we ever be allowed to travel again, for you to go abroad, to do an education abroad program, or to do UC-DC if you're interested in that, or UC Sacramento if you're interested in state politics. There's plenty of room here. It takes planning, which is why all of us are going to encourage you to make appointments at some point and you know, do a 4-year plan or a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan to figure out how all the pieces go together. But you know, these plans really show you that they work. Do you want to go to the next slide? And I'll make one other point. The other thing, so this is if you come in as a transfer student. Now, let me make a point that's also about the other slide. You'll notice that at the end of your 4th year, at the end of your senior year, it says summer internship. All of you will be required to do a summer internship. We do this for a couple of reasons. One is this is a professional program where the idea is that once you graduate with your master's degree, you're going to go out and get a job. Most of you are, well, not most of you, all of you are coming into the program as undergraduates, which means we don't assume that you've got a long history of working in a professional setting. We know that a lot of you work, but not in a professional setting. And so the internship gives you a chance to go out and have an experience in a professional setting, and also to have something on your resume that looks like a professional workplace setting. The summer internship also lets you take a flyer on what you think is the kind of work that you're interested in. You think that being in a nonprofit or an NGO in a developing country might be an interesting idea. So you find a summer internship that takes you to Africa, for example, and you come back in August, end of August, and say, that was really cool. That's really what I want to do. Or you come back and go, boy, I thought that was a good idea, but the work is really hard and the pay is really crappy. I want to do something else. In other words, it really does give you an opportunity to figure out what the professional world of work feels like, and to make connections to people who may be very important for you when you go on later on to look for a job. So it's a very important part of the program. GPS has funding available so that it can help you travel if you get an internship that's outside of San Diego, which we hope it is outside of San Diego. It will help you with housing costs. So we try to make sure that we're not encouraging you to do something that your finances don't allow you to do. That would be both silly and cruel. So we try to help you as much as possible. Now, if you are a transfer student and you look at this, one of the things that you'll see is that this has only upper division political science coursework on it. It's likely if you came in as a transfer student that you don't have all of the lower division courses that we require. So again, planning. We want to encourage you to meet with us early and start planning how you're going to do the coursework, so that when you apply to the program, you're in a good position to really focus on the graduate work. Okay, so this doesn't mean to suggest that you can't do the program. It just means that we need to meet earlier to figure out how you're going to fit everything in. So this is the information sort of in broad strokes about the application. The application will be due April 10th. Of this coming spring. The application is online. Again, we're going to post this, so you don't need to scramble to copy down the URL here, and there are links to the application on the GPS website, as well as on the political science website. So we try to make it easy for you. The application requires a statement of purpose. We will have an application workshop in winter quarter so we can talk in more detail about what a statement of purpose will look like. A resume. On that resume, we're interested sort of in broad things. So as I said, we know that a lot of you don't have a lot of work experience, so this is not going to be a 10-page resume with lots and lots of stuff on it. But we are interested in admitting people who have done internships, who have done volunteer work, who have a broad set of skills or experiences, who have traveled, who have hard skills that may not come across on their transcripts. You're a wizard at Python. You've got several languages, but they're not all going to show up on your transcript, and so on. So the resume is an opportunity for you to show us who you are as a whole person, because that's very important. GPS is very much a community, and everybody brings different stuff into the community and kind of fills roles which the students all like to have. You'll have to provide a transcript. This is very standard for an application, and then 2 recommendations. These are electronic online recommendations, so they don't require a letter. They require a recommender who goes in and fills out the form online. One of the things that you will notice is not here is that you do not have to take the GRE. The 5-year programs don't require taking the standardized test. It's one of the advantages of the 5-year programs. Even our 2-year program this year, at least in this application cycle, is not going to require the GREs. But whether it brings it back in another year or not is not clear. But for the 5-year programs, we don't require the GREs. So if you want to talk about the admissions requirements, if you want to talk about your coursework, look, my advice is that if you want to know when the political science department is going to teach what, so you can plan out, you've got a very specific set of courses that you want to take, by all means, you should talk to Natalie. She knows that schedule better than I do. But if you want to sit down and talk about what you need to get done by the time you apply, what we're looking for, how you're going to fit things together. If you want to talk about what the core requirements, what the core classes are going to be like, if you want to know more about them in some detail, I'm happy to talk with you. And so, you should make an appointment to talk to me. I can clarify to you what the eligibility requirements are, but they're pretty straightforward in terms of coursework and GPA, right? We're looking for the lower division coursework in political science, that your GEs are all but finished by the time you apply, so that you don't have a bunch of MMW and war and writing and science classes to do while you're also trying to take graduate coursework. That you've made substantial progress in completing your work for political science. And as I say, one of the things that we're going to ask you, if there's not obvious language on your transcript, how are you going to get to 6-quarter proficiency by the end of your graduate year so that you meet that requirement for the MIA? So this is what the GPS admissions is looking for. Again, I'm happy to talk with you individually if you want to make an appointment, or as I say, next winter, we'll do an application workshop, and GPS admissions will be there to talk to you about the application. And so it'll be a really good opportunity for you to ask them specifically about the application, how to navigate the application, what they're looking for in terms of recommendations and so on. So this just gives you a broad sense. I think it's a fairly straightforward application. I don't think you'll have trouble with it, but we can talk about, in particular, the personal statement, which for a graduate school application is a very important part of the application. In many ways, much more important than the essays that you wrote to get into UCSD. So one of the advantages of doing the BA MIA program is that your first year of graduate school is done as an undergraduate. And so the tuition is less, the tuition and fees are less than if you did 2 years of graduate work. It also means that you're still eligible for undergraduate financial aid. It's the same financial aid forms if you're using financial aid now that you or your parents have been filling out the whole time you've been in school. There's graduate level financial aid for the 1 year that you'll be in graduate school. But the other thing is that as you move into the graduate year, many of you, if you've done well in your upper division political science courses and or done really well in your GPS core courses, the opportunities for TA-ships increases. This fall quarter, GPS hired 33 TAs. That means 33 people who had their tuition and fees paid via being a TA. So there's an incentive there to come in and work hard in the last year while you're an undergraduate and doing well in the core so that you are eligible to work as a teaching assistant or a graduate researcher for one of the faculty and get substantial help toward the cost of going to school. And then, you know, this is one of the things that I point out in all of the info sessions that I do for all of the 5-year programs is that one of the most important questions that you should ask whether you end up doing the 5-year program or applying to another graduate program is, do your students get jobs and where did they get them? If someone doesn't want to tell you where people are getting jobs, then you should probably say thank you very much and apply someplace else. This is information that they should be more than happy to give you. Students who graduate from the MIA program work in many, many, many different fields and both public and private sector. What kind of a job you get depends on how early you identify the things that you're interested in and begin working with the GPS Career Services team on finding those kinds of jobs. We have students who graduated who work in some of the big technology companies. We have a student right now who's in charge of marketing for YouTube Music. We've got students at Facebook. We've had students go to Google. We've had a number of students go into the Foreign Service, and getting language acquisition is very important for that. We have students who go into doing investment banking in both the United States and abroad, research assistants at places like the Brookings Institution or the World Bank, people who work as policy analysts or work in the energy sector or environmental policy in both private and public businesses, doing advising in sustainability and environment. Intelligence analysts, we've had people who went to work for the CIA, the Department of Defense and doing intelligence analysis there. International students who returned to their home countries and went into such work, management consultants, people who go to work for big nonprofits. We've had a number of students who have started their own nonprofits that do all kinds of things and who come to GPS and end up doing both development, nonprofit management, but also doing some of the management classes where they learn about strategic management of NGOs. How do you run a business without losing money, which is what's most important to a nonprofit rather than making a profit, which is most important to a corporation. How do you manage a payroll in a nonprofit and so on. So, it's a real set of, sort of mixed skills that are very important. And as I say, depend largely on, you're working with career services to define an area of employment interest, sort of professional life, and then working with them to help identify where those jobs are. We have an incredibly big alumni network all over the world. I think we talk about this. You want to go to the next slide, Amy? In the career services, in our career support area, we have this alumni network, which is very important in helping our graduates get jobs many places around the world. They're committed to this as a sense of community to GPS. And so we bring them in to do talks with you. They do alumni panels. They do mock interviews to help you when you're looking for jobs. Career Services does outreach events, taking you to places like New York and San Francisco and Washington, D.C. They do, will help you connect with interviews in companies that you're interested in. They help you develop a very professional resume or multiple resumes so that you've got different resumes depending upon the number of different kinds of jobs that you're looking at. You're going to have one kind of resume if you want to go to work for YouTube, another kind of resume if you want to go to work for a startup in energy, for example, where you might be doing marketing research for them. So you might have very different kinds of resumes, but Career Services is very good at developing those. In the summer, before you start the core, you'll have to go through their career development program. It basically lays out the field of, of career services and how they're going to help you find a job. Career development courses that are taught along the way for the 2 years in things like, management, how you oversee a professional staff, what are the new hot skills that you need to have, skill development. If you're interested in entrepreneur work, we have a certificate in entrepreneurship. And so that program is an opportunity for you to see all the ways that they're going to work with you so that when you graduate with your MIA, you're poised to get a job. So if you want to schedule an appointment to talk more about the program, by all means, send me an email. If you want to talk about the political science curriculum, send a message via the VAC, and the political science staff will reach out to you and answer your questions. I'm happy to meet with you via Zoom these days, which seems to be the way we're all going to interact with one another, maybe forever, I don't know. But certainly for the rest of the year. I am on campus a couple days a week, and so for those of you who brave the wilds of parking and actually being on campus, I'd also be happy to meet with you on campus. Is that the end of that, Aim? So let's take a few minutes. I mean, first of all, Natalie, is there anything you want to fill in here? And then we'll take some questions.